Hello and welcome to Raw Chatter, episode 26. I am your host speaking, Vicky Midwood, health coach and addiction eliminator, helping you to feel flipping fabulous in your own skin. Now, today's topic is all about why being nice is harmful to your health. In the work that I do with helping people to eliminate the need, the desire, the obsession, the compulsion to turn to food or to alcohol to help them to just do life, it kind of makes sense that there are a number of reasons why we turn to those things. And often the reason is because it's a way of managing our anxiety, our stress, or just being able to numb out from what is going on for us in our world. Now, we know that in our world as human beings, we have for centuries used food and drink as a way of coming together, as a way of celebrating, whether it's a new moon, whether it's a festival, whether it's religious, whether it's somebody's birthday, or people getting married, or a baby being born, or whatever it happens to be. We equate those things with coming together as communities, and it's the connection that we really want. And we tend to do that with food because the whole point of these events is that we are nourishing body, mind, and soul. And so one of the things that I help my clients to recognize is that food is supposed to be nourishing. Being in an environment where we are sitting around a table and eating together and conversing and feeling comfortable and at ease is something that most of us have experienced at some point in our lives. But for the people that I work with, oftentimes those experiences were not always great. Maybe as a child, you felt forced to eat everything that was on your plate. And potentially the dinner table became a bit of a battleground of wills. Or maybe the dinner table was a place where you would hear your parents arguing and you felt very uncomfortable, and therefore you equated time to eat with anxiety and not wanting to be there. There are lots of reasons and a lot of experiences that we'll have had in our lives that will definitely have affected how we feel and think about coming together to celebrate or to eat. And it may or may not affect how we then decide that we're going to use food later on in our lives. Now, the people that I help, there tends to be certain personality traits, and pretty much across the board, these personality traits are the same. Now, I'm going to put my hand up here as well because my issues were originally with food and then with both food and alcohol. And I absolutely found, I had these traits. The idea that you need to be perfect to be acceptable and to be good enough was extraordinarily powerful. In my case, I come from a background where there were extremely high expectations that I felt were on me. In reality, they weren't, but I connected how my father talked about other people and made a connection to that's how he expected me to be. For many people, that's the same. There's also an element of people pleasing. Now, I've talked about this on a podcast before because people pleasing just sounds a really nice thing to do, doesn't it? Oh, let's please other people. But as I've explained previously, and I'll briefly explain it again, people pleasing is about what you can get from it. What you're really looking for is validation, is to be told that you are worthy and that you are good enough. And if you get the response that you would like from the person you're trying to please, that's great. Job done. Let's do it again because we get validated. Sometimes, though, what happens with people pleasing is you don't get the outcome that you wanted and expected. And so what happens? You try even harder to please that person. And often it's just a futile experience. But what does tend to happen is the more you bend over backwards to try and make somebody like you, then the more you're likely to get taken advantage of because you have now kind of taught that person how to treat you. And this is then where actually people pleasing has a completely opposite effect, because you feel worse. You feel worse about yourself. And then the crazy thing is that you feel worse. Your brain tells you, well, you better try even harder to please them. And you get stuck in this cycle of not feeling good enough, trying hard to make somebody like you and to feel better, and it just not working, which just reinforces the negativity, and you're stuck in this pattern of behavior that actually you find it really difficult to get out of. Now, that is the case with some of the people that I work with to varying degrees. And there isn't one of them who hasn't at some point said to me that they have either not told the truth, or they've kept something back from a person that they love or is close to them to spare their feelings. I didn't tell them because I didn't want them to be upset. I didn't tell them in case they found it difficult. And this is a big, big problem, because what you are basically saying is that you are now actually in control of somebody else's feelings, and you are in charge of what they are allowed to be exposed to in terms of news and experiences, or what's happening around them. It's down to you to decide what they can know and what they can't know. Now that's hella arrogant and grandiose, isn't it, when you think about it? Who are you to be in charge of other people? Are you God? Are you in charge of everybody's emotions and feelings? Is it down to you to decide what you're going to tell people and what you're not, what they're allowed to hear and what they're not allowed to hear? But that's what being nice actually can mean. And for many of you listening, you may have been brought up and heard from parents or even from teachers, don't do that, they'll get upset. Don't do that, it'll make them unhappy. Don't say that, they'll cry or you'll make them sad. And so the message that you got even as a child was, you're in charge of other people's feelings by what you do or what you don't say. Now that's a heck of a lot of pressure to put on a young kid. And then what happens if they did say something that wasn't the thing that they'd been told not to say, but then the person did get upset and the person did get angry? Is that now their fault? Well, if we follow that belief story through, yeah, you can see why that child will believe that they caused it. It was their fault. And that is the crux of a lot of people who turn to food and to drink to cope with life, because they truly believe that what they do and what they say affects other people's lives detrimentally. And it's all about them, and it's all about it being their fault. And what I want to tell you, if you think that, or you have thought that in the past and you're struggling to let it go, is that that is just horrendously bad programming, right? And it's not true. You are not in charge of other people's feelings or thoughts or emotions, and you never, ever were. The idea that we lie to people or we just omit parts of the truth to save somebody's feelings actually means that you are doing that person a massive disservice. What do I mean by that? Well, you are actually robbing them of the opportunity to learn how to manage their own feelings. Because one of the things that we know we need to be able to be a healthy, fully rounded human who can cope with whatever life throws at them is we need to learn to notice and to manage and to become emotionally resilient. In other words, to understand that feelings are not going to kill us. They are just feelings. They are poking us to think about something in a different way or to notice something. They are a way of getting us aware of being now, here and in the present, and of not jumping forward to the future or living in the past. They are a way of your body communicating to you with your mind's help and your brain too. So if we feel certain feelings, they are trying to tell us something, and we're supposed to take notice. Now, the important thing to take away from this, if you are a parent, is to recognize that what you say to your kid, what your kid hears, what they're exposed to, they are going to pick up. And pretty much everything goes in, right? Kids are like sponges, and they are not going to be able to know that what they are hearing about their ability to manage somebody else's feelings isn't true. Because the only person's feelings that we can manage are our own. And it is our responsibility to connect to them. But most of us don't know how to do that because we've been so busy thinking about protecting other people from their feelings that often we don't actually know what we ourselves are feeling. Now, when we rob somebody of the opportunity to actually connect to their feelings, it often means that young people, particularly, are not able to handle bad news. We've got a kind of a world now which is turning out to be fairly scary in terms of how young people are viewing what life should be like. This idea that it's all sweetness and light and you should be happy and jolly all the time, and that if you feel down and things aren't going your way, suddenly you are depressed and you need to go on antidepressants and talk about, you know, your traumas and how terrible your life is. Kids are now getting confused as to actually what real life is about. And real life is about a series and a whole gamut of emotions that we go through on a daily basis. And that is perfectly normal. We are never going to feel sweetness and light and happy and joyous and jolly all of the time. It's not possible. But neither are we going to feel low and depressed and down on ourselves and sad all of the time either. Because feelings are energy. They are energy and they're information. And they are energy in motion, which means that they should keep on flowing consistently and continuously. And we should just notice them and go, I hear you, I feel you. Then you can decide whether you need to take action on that feeling or whether you just need to be curious and notice it, thank it for showing up, and then let it move on. But if we're not allowing other people to be able to handle and manage their own emotions, what are we then doing? We're actually preventing them being able to do life very well. And the chances are then that these people will either become people pleasers themselves and need to seek external validation from others, or they will turn in on themselves and just stay in and just not communicate or connect with people because they don't have the skill set. If somebody says something wrong, they don't know how to handle it. If they don't get the result that they want in an exam, they don't know how to handle it. If they have done badly on an interview and nobody actually gives them critical feedback as to why they went wrong, then they are going to struggle to handle life, because life is not all a bed of roses, but it's not all a bed of nails either. And what we've got to remember is as parents, as teachers, as adults, as aunts, whatever you happen to be, it's not your job to spare someone's feelings. It is your job to talk about feelings and to help young people and yourself to recognize that feelings are not just facts. They are feelings. They are poking you to maybe turn into something that you have been trying to avoid or shy away from. They are positive on so many levels. And this is another thing that I wanted to cover in this episode, is that feelings are not good or bad. They are just feelings, right? They are different. And feelings will come up often very physical in a lot of us. We might not have the words, we might not actually know how to describe what we're feeling, but maybe we can connect to it in our body. Maybe it's a sensation of tightness in our shoulders, or your throat closing down a little bit, or maybe it's a twisting sensation in your gut, or maybe you just start to feel that your body's starting to get a little bit clammy, or you're feeling that you're shaking even though you didn't know you were nervous, but your body is actually kind of literally vibrating a little bit. And these are clues that your body knows what you are feeling. Even if you don't necessarily have the intellect or the capacity or the language or the words to be able to express it. But don't be scared of feelings, because they are just that. They're not going to kill you. They will pass, but they're helping you to know what actions you need to take, how to look after yourself, or just to let you know that they're there. They're there, and often they're there to protect you. Maybe they're trying to tell you to slow down. Maybe they're trying to tell you to just stop and take stock. If we push through feelings, if we ignore our feelings, they will come back to bite you, because what you resist persists. And the more you pretend everything's fine when everything's not, that you're feeling happy and joyous when inside you're dying or crying, it will come back to bite you. You will either get a physiological illness, or you'll get something like a consistent and continuous colds or flus that keep showing up that's trying to tell you something. Take notice. These things happen for a reason. What I've found is that a lot of people try and squash down their emotions with food. They try and numb out from what they're feeling with alcohol. And these things will work. Your brain's not daft, right? It remembers what works, but what your brain does forget is that it only works temporarily. And then when the temporary fix has worn off, those thoughts and those feelings still there, right? You didn't actually get rid of them. You just kind of turned the volume down on them for a little while. And so we need to turn in to what our emotions and our feelings are telling us. And sometimes we just have to notice them and go, okay, that's cool. And that's interesting. I don't know why I think like that, but it's good that I notice that I do. Other times you'll need to be able to go, okay, right, I need to act on this. I need to do something, because I cannot consistently keep on feeling like this about this situation or with this person or whatever it happens to be. So it can allow us, for example, to put in some very clear boundaries that help us stay safe. Feelings can allow us to stop doing stuff that is harmful to us emotionally, mentally, and physically. Feelings can also remind us that we need to do more of the stuff that feels good. So things that make you laugh and things that make you smile, these are the things that help you to feel good, and they improve your health. Feelings of gratitude, there is so much research out there that tells us that when we feel grateful, genuinely grateful, that we're not just saying the words or writing a gratitude diary that's just on loop because we keep writing the same things down every day, but when you are genuinely grateful for certain people or situations and things, then that is going to create a very positive emotional response, but a physiological response in your body too. People who are grateful live longer, feel younger, have more energy than people who spend their lives finding stuff to worry about, to moan about, to complain about. And also the people who try and spare other people's feelings by not telling the truth don't have great outcomes. Often that creates stress. And stress is not something that many of you will necessarily connect with type 2 diabetes or Alzheimer's, but I can tell you it is a massive, massive reason. When we think type 2 diabetes, everybody goes to food and everybody thinks, oh, blood glucose levels and what have you eaten? You need to change your diet. And what I can tell you now from experience only this week is that we can get the exact same symptoms of type 2 diabetes because of anxiety and stress. And a lot of that anxiety and stress is because we don't want other people to think or feel a certain way. In other words, we're telling ourselves we are in charge of everybody else out there's feelings and thoughts. Well, that's a massive load to bear. And I'm here to tell you, you are not. We have to allow people to feel their own feelings. We have to allow them to learn to manage their own emotions. It is not your job. The only person whose job it is to manage the emotions of is yours. And if you want to be healthy, if you want to avoid Alzheimer's, type 2 diabetes, excess belly fat, feeling that you are aging before your actual physical age, feeling that you're struggling to remember things, stop for a moment and ask yourself, am I trying to control everybody else's feelings? And if the answer is yes, I'm going to invite you as of now to let that go, because you ain't doing them or yourself any favors whatsoever. I hope that's been helpful, folks. If it has, I would love you to give me a thumbs up and a like. If you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please do. Don't miss our next episodes. On the next one, I will have an amazing guest for you. I'm really looking forward to the interview that I have coming up for you guys. And I do hope that you are enjoying the guest episodes and the mix of social episodes and ones with just me on my own. If you think that the contents of this episode may be helpful to somebody else, please do pass it on to them, because the more we can start talking about the stuff that really does matter, the more we can get real and raw, the happier and the healthier we're all going to be. We only have one body, as far as we know, in one life. Take care of your body, folks, because it's taking care of you. And until the next one, see you soon.